Just over a week since it started, and this extraordinary rebel advance rolls on, right into the heart of Syria's fourth largest city, Hama. The Islamist fighters of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham cheered as they go. What's the situation? Where are we? Asks one. We're in the center of Hama, comes the reply. Nearby, the city's prison. This is a regime that specializes in arbitrary detention. 130,000 people estimated to have been disappeared since 2011. But the regime is now gone from this city, and these men are suddenly free.
May God destroy Assad. We got rid of him. May the Lord burn his heart. We are 1,500 prisoners with 50 crammed in one room. May God burn his heart.
For decades a centre of anti-Assad opposition, the capture of Hama is a major moment, showing the growing ambition of these forces and their Sunni Islamist leader, who broke with al-Qaeda 8 years ago and is trying to reassure the country's many minorities that his fighters aren't a threat.
Good news, my brothers. Your Mujahideen brothers, the revolutionaries, have started to enter the city of Hama to cleanse the wound that has persisted in Syria for 40 years. I pray to God that this will be a conquest without vengeance, but one of mercy and compassion.
On Sunday, the Syrian military put out this footage of the army chief rallying troops north of Hama, promising to crush the insurgency and reclaim territory. Instead, the army said today it was redeploying outside the city to save civilian lives. But abandoned military vehicles, even more so abandoned fighter jets, suggests anything but a strategic withdrawal. It seems again Syrian lines collapsed in chaos. At the height of the Arab Spring, Hama was one of the main centres of anti-Assad protest, a city marked by a 1982 regime massacre that killed anywhere up to 40,000 people. But its fall is more than symbolic, it's strategic. This is the scene tonight in Homs, south of Hama, civilians fleeing for the coast, notably not even the capital Damascus. If the regime loses Homs, it risks losing its link to the Mediterranean, to the Assad family heartland, to key routes into Lebanon. To the north, 6 days after Aleppo fell to the rebels, the Syrian civil defense saw white helmets trying to restore some order on the battle-strewn streets. Still much, though, for civilians here to fear. Will HTS keep its promises to preserve cultural and religious diversity? Will Russian and Syrian aircraft soon be back on bombing runs?
That's the collective punishment, using barrel bombs, using, in some occasions, chemical weapon. And the regime already bombed the biggest hospital in Aleppo, the University Hospital. The Russians bombed 5 hospitals in Idlib. 3 of them came out of service due to these attacks, and the civilians are so worried.
Tonight in Hama, they're celebrating in the same square where they defied the Assad regime in their hundreds of thousands in 2011. We're coming to Homs, these men say. We're coming for you, Assad. A regime that for years has projected stability, victory, is now gripped by a crisis just 9 days old that's slipping into existential territory.
Well, joining me now is Hamza Al-Khatib, a Syrian doctor and activist who lived through much of the siege in Aleppo. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. This is really personal for you, watching on, of course. What have you heard? Many people have been surprised by the advance. Are you?
I mean, thank you for having me. Actually, those days were the last, kind of 2 weeks for us in Aleppo during the siege. And it was a surprise because since then, we, as Syrians, we were certain that we were let down by the international community. We were let down by any source of hope of accountability of all the displacement, the war crimes, attacks on healthcare facilities. We were left alone. And all the conversation about normalization back with the Assad regime from the EU, Italy has reopened their embassy a few weeks ago. Turkey, the Arab League, and we felt no one kind of cared about the suffering or the war crimes, and this really changed a lot.
And just, do you think the next city on the road to Damascus is Homs? Can you see that falling as well? Do you think that's on the horizon?
I mean, if you ask me a month from now, I would say there is no light at the end of the tunnel, and we don't like, we just to raise our voices outside as like diaspora forced to leave our homes. But now I can see myself and my family even returning, like they're marching now to Homs. There are Russian airstrikes on like some bridges that connect Hama to Homs. So they're also anticipating that. And the military operation in Syria like has announced that their next stop will be Homs. So if Aleppo, then Hama, now it feels like everything is possible.
And you say you have some hope there. You say everything is possible. Could that be the end of the regime then? Is that what you're thinking?
I mean, any area that the regime lost is a huge win for humanity. The images of detainees going out from Hamas presence and Aleppo presence, like if that's the outcome of what happened, that's more than enough. There were people that left out like that were released today that were in prison since 1980. And like verified, documented that they were in prison since then. So like it's a hope for everyone. Any fallback of those the Al-Assad dictatorship is a win for all. And this advance, why I say everything is possible, because like the fact that like Iranian and Hezbollah militias are not supportive of Al-Assad, like what happened between 2012 until 2016. And similar like with the Russian, they're still there, and there are still some Russian airstrikes, but not as effective as what we had in Aleppo. That shows like what we always said, that the regime is not controlling Syria. It's actually the Hezbollah militias, the Iranian militias, and the Russian military operations.